only a few hours since last night, but just what have you been able to reflect on as far as the season and what these guys were able to do?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a good setup. But you know, last night, it's always in situations where you're going in and you're competing, and you're really trying to get to the next stage and advance, and then it just stops. And it's so abrupt. It's like less than 24 hours ago, we were here in this building thinking about, how we're going to attack Miami and what are some things that we've got to do to prepare ourselves for the next round. We play in Cleveland, all preparation, in case. And then just the suddenness is just there, and it's abrupt, and it's disappointing because for obvious reasons of wanting to continue to advance. And not just to show yourself like where you're at, but for especially young guys and other guys that maybe older that may not have experienced the playoffs, like that atmosphere, you just can't replicate it unless you've actually gone through it. And it makes me think about going into this season, the two themes that we were really focused on. It was development and it was to compete. And a lot of times it's really hard to do both. And you're telling players specifically, and a number of us, like kind of sit in this tension because teams typically are categorized as, well, are you developing and rebuilding, or are you out here trying to compete or contend? And for us, it was like, no, we're gonna do both. And I was super proud of the group this year. I think they far exceeded my expectations. Frankly, it's if you look at our starting five by the end of it, I think our average age was like 22.8 or something like that. And for a top overall draft pick to come into an environment where you are trying to compete, this is not like a complete rebuild at all. Like, we're retooling and we're trying to continue to maximize. You're watching that occur. So I think he had a wildly successful first season. To be able to play, but also like when you show up, like there is a level of competitiveness that we're really trying to go after every night. Thought that was a huge success for him. And you look at Dyson from a year ago to where he's at now. I mean, my gosh, in Defensive Player of the Year talks, and Zach in Rookie of the Year talks, and you're seeing Onyeka take a big jump. I thought Trey and his value he brought to this group, like those guys don't develop to where they're at today without him. And so we're doing that with him as our lone returner, starting wise. Younger, outpaced our wins this season compared to last year, and that's not the end all be all by any stretch, but I give this group a ton of credit, and I'm speaking specifically about players and our coaching staff. Like, they have done a fantastic job, and we haven't had 3 rotation players for a long time with Clint and Larry and Jalen. And we had guys that had high aspirations for the season, even in Kobe, that didn't get to really play that much, frankly. And we've had two-way guys on contracts with two-ways that have impacted this group. I think back to the Chicago game and what Daquan did in that role, and what Keaton has done not only in that game but throughout the season. That's a huge testament to the development aspect, while also trying to be competitive and leaving it all on the floor night in and night out. And at the end of the day, you let the chips fall where they may. But I think there's a number of markers for our group that I'm incredibly proud of, from our staff to our players to our coaches. They've done a hell of a job. They really have. So it doesn't stop, right? Like, I'm gonna talk to you, and then we're gonna get into the next thing here and focus on the draft and the combine that's coming up. We'll build out off-season plans for our guys and say, here's the next stage, the next iteration of us getting better and how we're gonna level up. And I'm excited for that, and the guys are excited about that. So having met with every single player in exit interviews here, there's a lot of gratitude, obviously a lot of disappointment, because everyone went into that game last night thinking we were going to come out as a winner, and there were moments there where it looked a little bleak, and then it came back, and obviously landed how it did. But those guys are great, and they're all itching to get better after a little bit of rest. So.
I won't ask you about necessarily a player per se, but I know that you mentioned draft and combine. Is there a player type of sorts, if there's a such thing that you feel like is missing in order to perhaps take the step to the next level for this team?
Well, we're in a peculiar position with our picks right now, right? We have Sacramento's pick, which I believe is landing 13 or 14 on a coin flip, and then we'll kind of see how the lottery goes, and then we have the Lakers pick. So great opportunity for us to continue to build. And as with, frankly, any player, especially in the draft, the types of players that we look for are guys that are willing to compete and care about getting better. If you do that and you get guys that have that willingness, apart from being talented, right? You gotta have talent at this level, and you give that time to grow. Like that's what we're gonna look at, and that's what we're gonna really value as time goes on. And that doesn't just go with young players; that goes with vets as well. So as I was talking about the X interviews, it was incredibly refreshing to hear even from older guys like, hey, what is it, what more can I do to get better? Nobody is above development, and that's the culture that we're after. And so drafts are great opportunities to get more players like that.
At what point, I mean, I know you're always looking to get better, but at one point will you feel like complete and we're not retooling and that kind of thing? Is there a moment where you'll feel that way when you get a certain player or at a certain point or reach a certain moment?
Probably not, just because it's a mindset, frankly. It's a growth mindset. The world and the league is always evolving, and things change dramatically. I mean, like, you need one season of a news cycle to realize how things can change and how they can evolve. And guys get better, they do different things. So you're, of course, studying what makes great teams great, and you're trying to fill in those aspects and components. And you're also trying to fill in timelines that all work within that, because continuity and chemistry is really important to having a great team. So you want guys to be able to build together going into the future. But I'll say this, I'll never sit in front of you and speak and say, hey, we're not going into this next period trying to get better, regardless of how many wins it was, because wins come and go, and there's a champion, and the next thing you know, training camp is here and we're on to the next thing. And there's really, really good teams. There's no perfect team. So the closer we could stay to what we identify and define as perfection, that's what it's going to be. And there's always going to be moves and changes that you have to account for. So, you know, not to answer that a certain way, but it comes down to a mindset and a posture that we have.
Injuries are never predictable, if you will, and only in the sense that there could be some in the future, right? But how do you try to, I guess, address the depth, especially in the front court, because it seems like the second season in a row that's kind of been, you know, the guiding light of whether you guys have not necessarily a successful season, but maybe a more successful season.
Sure. Yeah, injuries are tough, and especially when they're ones that just kind of come out of nowhere. But every season you have to account for them. They're a part of everything. And the way that you help that is just to have a level of preparation that everyone's involved in. And so when those guys go down, like it was a tough blow when Jalen went down and Larry went down and when Clint went down, because they add something to our group that helps our front court and it helps our defense. And, you know, those are things that we have to address going forward. And sometimes, you know, when you're past transactional periods, you're going, there's only so much that you can possibly do, and there's only so many schemes that our coaches can do differently, and you kind of live with the results. But I think it goes into, you know, how is our performance staff, which has done a terrific job, going to game plan and really prepare guys in a way where we're not reactive, but we're proactive on what guys are working through and what may be lingering, and get them as right as possible before the season starts. And then the level of care and intentionality that our training staff brings, paired with the player and how they bring about their willingness to rehab and just train their bodies in the best way possible. It all goes hand in hand, but you have to have those guys that have that willingness and mindset to do that. So something that you always account for, and sometimes you just, like, that's tough. You do what you can. But in those moments too, it's a great opportunity for others. I mean, this guy I didn't even mention, like Mo Gay, right? I I would have thought he was going to spend a large portion of his time, and he did spend a significant time in College Park this year. But to go from that to starting and to see how that impacted our defensive rating and how that really helped and leveled us up. I mean, he doesn't have that opportunity unless some guys go down. You never want that.
Right.
But now think about the experience that he has going into the offseason, not just experience, but level of confidence. Like to go in a game last night, bangs a corner three, does what he does defensively in the Orlando game, which, didn't go our way either. But those are great individual moments for guys, something that they can hang their hat on and build on going into the off season. So we'll take it as we can get it and find where's the best way to move forward from here, regardless of injuries.
Where have you grown just as a GM? When you talk about the players' growth and things like that, and every year there's something different. So where have you seen yourself maybe okay, I know I can expect this and deal with this a little bit better than I did a couple years ago?
It's a good question. Never been asked that, but I think it's a real commitment, one, to sitting here a few years ago and talking about the vision of the Hawks, and every single season a further alignment to that vision and a willingness to support, challenge, hold accountable to no, this is where we're going, and we're all on the same page and we all believe in that. So I think for me, it's a continuous reminder for our group about what it means to be a Hawk, and at the same time aligning individual visions towards that and then building out a plan to move it forward. And so I think for me, being able to partner with that has just gotten better, and I'm excited about this off season and really engaging with not just our players but with our staff as well, and continuously plowing forward.
Is there any personal gratification when you make a tough decision to move on from a player, and then you get Dyson in return and he blossoms into the player that he turned out to be this season? Is there any kind of personal gratification of I was right and kind of see it work out?
There is, but I'd be remiss not to say that I wasn't in some bunker in some cave just pre-thinking this trade is going to net me that. We have a lot of conversations, and our scouts do a lot of work in this particular instance, and they're the ones that are giving me hey, here's what I think and here's what I've seen, and I go around and make sure okay, let me check into all that stuff apart from what I'm just watching on my own as well, and making sure that aligns with what we're building and who we are as a group collectively. So it's great. Yeah, I love it. I love it for our group. I love it that in this particular instance, Dyson's a good young player that's only getting better and already showcasing for everyone to see who he is as a player. So I'm really excited about that, because you go okay, that's a player that we feel good about. And you just kind of go from there. But really, I for me personally, it's awesome. But there's a ton of other people that have their fingerprints all over that. They just do. And I'm proud of that group for doing the work that they've done on that one. And then they're going to keep doing it, right? We got to keep building. So we got to keep hitting.
Landry, what is the deciding factors that determines whether you do or don't be very active during something like free agency? Is that kind of by design, why it appears anyways to be more of a focal point going into draft and gathering players from there than versus sometimes I think that the fan base has kind of expressed sometimes how frustrating it is when it's free agency time that there's not a lot of movement being made, but more so out of draft. Is that the design?
Well, sometimes you share that frustration because you set out for things and you know what you want to accomplish, and sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. And there's only so many periods where you can be transactional, right? It's the draft, it's free agency, it's through trades. And we believe a lot in our development, internal growth. And in terms of whether you do or don't pull the trigger on something, it all comes back to, well, what works here and what fits the current group that we are building with. And sometimes that puts you in a position where you have to make tough decisions and you have to say no to what is seemingly very good players. It's hey, it's a great player, it just doesn't fit. So our fans, they're amazing, and everyone that supports this group and this team, I hear you, and a lot of times I share the same frustration with you, but for what we're building, it takes a certain type of player, And sometimes even that player is not something that's a right now, it's a into the future sort of deal. And it takes patience, and guys are growing and developing and getting better. I mean, if you even look at, our last trade deadline, like that was a really hard decision to move the guys that we did, because they've been such an integral part of what we've been doing. We had to take an honest assessment about where we were at and things that we were going to need beyond just this season. And we wanted to go into that deadline making sure that we were still competitive at the end of the day. That goes back to the two themes that I was talking about. So how do you make moves to set yourself up for something postseason, but also remain competitive this season? And going into that trade deadline, we were 1-9, and post deadline we were 17-14, I think. So like we got better. I would say we would hit that competitive mark. Yeah, it didn't end the results that we really wanted, but that was an objective that we had. And I thought those guys have been terrific. They all bring something different. George and Karras and T-Man. I mean, like, they all brought something different to the group that at different points in time we needed the second half of the season. And like, they have it here too. They're great dudes, and they're great for our young guys. So how do you develop? Well, you need some really good vets around that give them a pathway to move forward on, but also got to compete every night in and night out. And so I thought that's what we accomplished there and for the rest of the season.
Landry, kind of piggybacking off of what Lauren was saying about front court, do you think there's been like a shift in the league with traditional bigs and centers in that position? And how do you see the Hawks kind of maybe adhering to that, or maybe kind of not adhering to that? Do you think there's been a shift in seeing like those traditional bigs out there?
It's always unique. I should say it's every team is unique in how they approach it. Typically, looking at the history of the game, like, size matters. It's just part of how the structures of this whole thing is built and the systems that basketball is at the end of the day. And I think we're seeing the importance of just those types of players, frankly. But traditional big men, I mean, even within their tradition, they do have these idiosyncrasies that are fun and unique, and you can take those types and build with your team. So we're always going to be open to a number of different players, and that's the feedback and the partnership that we have with Quinn and his coaching staff, and say, hey, these are the types of players that are available, whether it's the draft, free agency, or in a trade. What do you think, whether they're traditional bigs or not? But there's a place for them, I'll tell you that for sure.
It's obviously a result, basically. Heck, we've seen teams move on from coaches that are in the playoffs. Do you foresee any changes among your coaching staff at all, or?
No, they've done it. Quinn has done a terrific job. I couldn't be more thrilled. I'm happy with him, excited about what we've built and are building, and the level of creativity that it's going to take to continue forward.
You've mentioned transactional windows a couple of times. Does this particular off-season hold any special importance compared to maybe the past couple or the futures couple of years, just because you have more flexibility than you might not have had the last couple of years, the next 2 years coming?
Yeah, it's kind of taking a look at our group, and we still have a number of guys under contract. So like, there's a lot here that's back, and to be in a position with the flexibility that we do have going into the summer is it's really good. Like, and it allows us the opportunity to build further out with such a, I mean, not everyone is young, right? But like, for a number of players that are young, like, we're gonna still need to surround them with good players. We're not going into next season not competing again. Like, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna compete. So to have the flexibility to go get players, or to figure out ways to take in different players, whether it's a trade or free agency, is important for us. And we wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't have the flexibility that we had. So it kind of goes back to some of our objectives at the deadline. Challenging to make those moves, but we knew, like, we'd be in a position now to, like, okay, now we have more of a runway to do some things and build.
Trey said that he was told that the goal for him was to develop the young guys this season. What do you see a goal for him to do next season?
Well, before next season, I thought he did a great job of that this year. Like, he really took on more on his plate, and a guy in that position, like, it's heavy. Like, he wears things differently when you're that level of player. And for us to go to him and say, hey, like, there's some young guys coming in that are really good, but they're going to need some guidance. Oh, and we're going to need you to continue to do the things that you do well. You know, it's part of the development process, and he embraces it. And so I thought he did a terrific job with that. And there's a number of things that he's done preseason, during season, and just talking through some of the things that he thinks about going into this off season. I know that that's not going to go away. Like, he's going to continue to grow as a leader, to continue to do things for his body and his game that's going to set him up for next season. But I thought he did a very, very good job with that. I'm super proud of how he helped develop these guys this year.
A little question about Zach. What do you think about the work he made with Anthony Brossard, his personal trainer?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's useful?
Mm-hmm.
And can you imagine maybe Anthony to do another step
Mm-hmm.
in the organization?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Zach turned 20 last week, I think. So he's just naturally going to get better. And for any young developing guy, it's super important who's around them. It's not just like here in this building, but like when you go home, like what are the voices that all are communicating to you, telling you this, that, and the third. And Zach has great people around him. And they've been great to partner with and project out, like, this is what it's going to look like this upcoming summer. But also, you know, being honest in the middle of the season, as I said before, like, being as young as he is and growing in a competitive environment is really important. And so there's no sense of entitlement with him. He's a guy that's an everyday, routine-driven type of player. And so, you know, give me those types of guys and give it time and the humility to take in new information and work. Like, that's a recipe for success. And then when you have people that are not in this building that are amplifying that in an alignment, that's what he has. And that's special for us.
Landry, if you mix up this team and construct it, I guess, or just shape and mold it in all the ways that you want it to be, what is that identity of that team, and how far do you think the team that we just saw coming off the floor last night is from, you know, how far is that from your ideal of the identity of Atlanta Hawks team?
Well, the ideal is, it makes me think of the word collective, and it's how we play. The identity is around growth and work. And if you look at last night too, just, you know, in sort of a microcosm, you know, us playing more with the pass, like, that's collective, that's connective basketball. The connectivity we had defensively last night too, you know, if we can take that and maximize that over the course of a season, like, that's fun. That's something that would be part of the vision and the ideal. You know, like, you know, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Like, that's something that I've said before, and everyone has different roles out there, but when they come together and there's a night in, night out competitiveness that they have, that's the vision. And, you know, it's, you let the results be what they'll be, but if you get guys that operate well together and they're competitive night in and night out and they commit to the defensive end, typically you're going to be on the right side of the scoreboard.
Just another one on Zach. Do you think playing the Euro basket can help him to reach another level?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited for him in this summer. His opportunity to play with his national team, so much pride that goes into that for any player, and, you know, see, you know, set him up with a plan for how we're thinking about things, and he's going into that. But French basketball right now is on the up and up. Like, they're doing pretty well. And I'm excited that he gets to join that group. So it can only help him in his confidence.
Landry, I know that the NBA is always evolving, and you talked about it a little bit too, but how do you keep, I guess, maybe not necessarily a hard timeline or hard deadline in place and not get away from it, so that you're not just constantly chasing what other teams are doing or what other franchises are doing, but what will ultimately get you guys a championship?
In terms of, like benchmarks or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, look, this season, wanted to develop, wanted to compete, and wanted to get beyond, I mean, like, from a result standpoint, there's only so much control that you have, but yeah, we wanted to outpace what we did last year. Like, we did that from a wins cost perspective. Is it where we want to go? Of course not. So that is something that, if you look at our group right now, and you get another year of growth and development. You kind of let things grow as we believe they can, building upon this year. Yeah, want to keep pushing forward, right? Like we want to go not playing but playoffs to top 4. Like yeah, that's all within it. But we're not going to get there, and I know I harp on this. We're not going to get there without those daily habits. Like those are the everyday process that leads to those results. So yeah, we can set up here and talk about our goals every single year, and we have them, and we really do.
Yeah.
But how you're going to get there is the real question, and that's where the rubber meets the road. Frankly, that's the action behind it all.
How do you keep, I guess, the team and some players who've been here for a while too from getting impatient, right? Like they want to win now and not like think about, okay, in a couple of years I can win now. You know what I mean? Like how do you balance that, I guess?
Yeah, it's just being in constant communication with them, having them see and hopefully understand just how far they've actually come, and that, you know, if you lay out like how did this great team come to be? Well, it took X number of time, and it took these types of moves and this type of these routines and these habits to actually do it. You know, that's part of the process. It's part of just communication and education as well. And it's not just for players, for all of us. Like I sit up here and I'm like, dang, I'm impatient right now, and I'm the one over here preaching it, right? So there's this mirror factor to it where I'm like, I want it now. Like I want this to happen now. I wanted the playoffs. I wanted us to be not doing this and be in Cleveland, on my way to Cleveland now. That's not where we're at right now. So there's a level of patience that you almost have to exercise, because if you become impatient, you get hijacked in the moment, and then you're not actually seeing clearly for the very next move that you do have to make, and you're in this constant fog. So it's having anyone understand that yes, patience is required, not just to withstand what it is, but also to keep you clear-headed so that you can see what does need to happen next and what you need to commit to next.
That's not easy.
No, it's not. No, it's not easy. No, and this whole building is feels that, right? And we should, because like we want to get to where we want to go to. And I know and trust and believe that we're going to get there. But yeah, it's going to require work, and in times it's going to require patience.
Can I ask a nerd question just when it comes to the
Not
coin
at
flip
all.
stuff? Like of the draft pick and like where it would land.
Yeah.
Like how does that coin flip process work? Who gets heads? Who gets tails? Who gets to pick? Like any
It's truly
Yeah, I'm not that nerdy to really know all that right now, but I do know it comes down to a coin flip. The actual process of like who's flipping it out, I don't know. I'm gonna check somebody's thumb just before, and be like, make sure there's no glue on it. But I do know it comes down to that, and for where things are lined up based off the protections with the SAC pick, and where that'll line up for our pick and theirs. I mean, it's kind of amazing how it just landed where it did. So, you know, we're hoping that it conveys and we're able to continue to build.
Landry, I wanted to ask you, obviously your whole time here has been kind of a message to the fans, but if you wanted to pinpoint a certain message to tell Hawks fans, what would you tell them?
It's one, I would tell them thank you, and night in and night out, like we feel them. That can never be lost, and it matters from when I was playing to now being in front office position. Those things, they matter. They really do. And I would tell them that what we're building right now, like we are seeing some really good things, and hopefully, listening back to what I had said before, not to be repetitive about it right now, but there is progress that is being made. And not only that, but we're doing it with a group that is young enough to do that process for a very long time. And it takes, it's gonna take some patience. And of course, that's never easy. We all feel that, and I want my team. I have pride in my team. Wear Hawks gear all the time. I want to be proud of it, and I am. And I know that to where we're ultimately wanting to go, it's going to take work. It's going to take some patience, and it's us continuing to commit to the way in which we are building things. And sometimes it requires us, as I said before, to probably shy away from certain things because it's just not who we are. But who we are, I believe, is what's going to get us there. And then when it does turn, it'd be like, there you go. Like, it's all part of it, and we got to continue to build even from that point on too.
Do you feel grateful maybe for a franchise that allows that? Like the Patriots, I feel like some are impatient, right? It's like you win a championship and then they make a change. Or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm grateful that they...
Oh my gosh, I really can't speak highly enough about that. Really, it's like it's a top-down thing. I don't sit at the top. Like our owners sit at the top. Tony sits at the top, and his family, and they do an unbelievable job of the support that they have, not just for me personally, but for us collectively. And it's not easy. Like we all want to win now, but he and they have been so instrumental in giving us the resources that we need to actually build. Like there is no hindrance. It's like, hey, what do you think is going to help us make the next move? And there's a level of trust in me to tell them like this is what's going to move the needle right now. And they've been more than supportive throughout the whole process. Very, very communicative and gives great feedback on stuff, but also knows and trusts that, you know, we're taking it day by day. So to have that that level of encouragement and support, I can't stress that enough. Like that, if I could have that for any organization, I would. And our ownership group is fantastic.
Thanks, Landry.